Hey guys, it's Anthony here from MCTDM. Welcome back to the MSI GP62 6QF Leopard Pro laptop review. If you're interested in watching an unboxing of this notebook, I have a separate video available on my channel. Links below and annotation on screen now if you'd like to check it out. So let's get right into the basics of the laptop. The GP Leopard series comes in either the GP72 or the 62 models. The difference in the 7 and the 6 is simply the screen size. The 72 is a 17.3 inch display, while the 62 is a 15.6 inch display. As for the difference between the 6QE and the 6QF is the model used. The lower model is a 6QE is an NVIDIA GTX 950M graphics card. And the 6QF is the one that I've got here, is the GTX 960M. So let's check out this model. The CPU is the Intel Skylake i7-6700HQ, and at the time of the release was the best in line for CPUs in notebooks. As for the RAM, by default this model here came with 8GB, but it does state it's upgradable to 32GB for the enthusiasts that feel that they would need that much. However, it should be noted that you can't simply upgrade this notebook without taking off the entire back cover, what is fairly complicated, and it conveniently voids the warranty. The RAM's speed is a DDR4 2133 MHz. As for the graphics, it's packing NVIDIA GTX 960M as I mentioned before. The 900 series is a boost from the previous line that came in notebooks, but it should be noticed the 960M is only the equivalent of about a 750 Ti for desktops. In terms of performance for gaming, that is. Now, for storage, this notebook by default has one SSD, it's 128GB, and a 1TB hard drive. The SSD is an M.2 PCIe based SSD. While not advertised, the SSD is in fact upgradable as long as you arrange your own operating system or transfer it outside of it. To be loaded onto, the 128GB is fine for your operating system, a game, and some of your programs that you might use. Just don't expect to fit WoW or Battlefield 4 or something on there that's 60GB nowadays. As for the 1TB hard drive, it's a standard 2.5 inch Sata Bay drive. It's easily hot swappable, and if you'd like to upgrade it, there's no reason why you can't. Some of the other internal hardware specs we have is your killer E2400GB Ethernet, but welcome to Australia where we will never get close to those speeds, Bluetooth 4.0, and 802.11 AC wireless. Well, let's get into the next part, and onto the physical aspects of the notebook, and what you'll find around it. Starting at the bottom, you'll find 4 rubber pivots to give rise to the notebook to allow airflow to the 2 fans, one on each side, along with the main vents in the middle that give air to the copper heat pipes for the CPU and GPU. The rear shows the slick matte black design of the MSI notebook, and the beautiful logo. That unfortunately on this model does not light up, unlike unfortunately what I reported in the unboxing. However, on the newer models of the higher tier do indeed light up. At the bottom you'll also see 2 rear exhaust vents. The right hand side panels you'll find a DVD drive that you'll rarely use, and wish more designers had the option to easily remove and cover it up to prevent and help with the weight reduction of it. Followed by a USB 2.0 port and a full-sized SD card reader, and your AC power jack. As for your left side, you'll find 2 audio ports for audio in and audio out. One USB Type-C port followed by a USB 3.0 port. After is a mini display port and a full-sized HDMI only 1.40 port. Another USB 3.0 port, your Ethernet port, and to finish it all off you have a Kingston lock at the end. Moving on to the keyboard and trackpad. Starting with the trackpad, you'll notice while using it there is a slightly off. The positioning is neither centered to the case nor to the keyboard, but it does feel smooth while using it, and with defined borders around it, by lowering the trackpad just slightly, you'll easily notice when you reach the edge. Left and right buttons I would have liked to have been made a little more subtle and smaller. They stick out more than what I would have liked. Finally, the last problem I sometimes run into is the trackpad won't register my taps on the left click. This is mostly prominent when using the notebook on the go that I've found, and it could just be the way I'm tapping it. As for the keyboard, it's a SteelSeries designed keyboard with white LED lights, and the first thing I must say about this keyboard is why? Why MSI? you'd greenlight SteelSeries to do this, and why the first place SteelSeries would even want to do this is you've removed the Windows key button and you've put it near the arrow keys. Just why? You said it was to prevent pressing it while gaming. Well, do what the others do, like Razer and other notebooks that I've had in the past, where you can press a button and it disables it and puts the notebook into a gaming mode, where when you press it, nothing happens. It's great. You should have just done that. Other than that, you'll find a full-size keyboard with a number pad, and thank God they gave us full-sized arrow keys. Along with this function, the function buttons allow for easy hotkeying, for sound brightness, power modes, along with the ability to remap a few of those function buttons to be macro keys. A nice extra, but one that won't allow you to get extra abilities in WoW or other games like that for ability queuing, as it is out of place. As for those LEDs in the keyboard, they're a static white, and don't worry, they can be turned off by pressing the function either minus or plus signs. Minus making it brighter, though, so why? It's kind of reversed like that. You have 3 levels of brightness, not including off, a nice feature when gaming in low light areas. The only other thing I would have liked to see from the LEDs is a power saving mode that turns the LEDs off automatically when you select it. RGB would have been nice, but it would have driven the price up. You'll notice that some of their new models do have RGB, especially in their higher tier, more expensive ones. Now, at the top of the keyboard, you'll find your power button, the MSI button that will open up the MSI control panel, and inside that you can be able to do things just like what your keyboard allowed you to do, like turning the Wi-Fi off, Bluetooth, selecting the brightness, volume, and power plans. You'll probably never use it. Then you have a little fan button next to it. When pressed, you'll turn the fans onto their turbo mode, maxing them out, and it chills the machine pretty quickly. But make sure you're wearing headphones because it gets bloody loud, and don't have any neighbors nearby. Like, don't do it in class. Now let's talk about the display. We'll start with the boring. You notice it has a webcam at the top. It's just a 720p, 30 FPS camera. Nothing amazing. And the microphone is pretty crap as well. Not like, it'll be fine for Skype, and it'll get the job done, but that's as far as it goes. You won't want him to do voiceovers with this. Get a secondary microphone or a headset mic. Even if you're going to be doing gaming, get a headset mic. Now, the display is a 15.6. They've labelled it as a full HD 1080p display with a 94% NTSC wide viewing panel. So it's not an IPS display, and in short, if you're going to try and edit movies and photos, and that's what you want this device to be, you probably should be considering using an external IPS display in that case. However, if you like me and you're using this just to render, you're rendering your main PC and then exporting it to the laptop and rendering while at work, it's fine. For viewing angles, at maximum brightness, I find I could view the screen sitting at nearly any angle vertically, but when I started moving the laptop screen up and down, viewing became harder quite quickly. So you spend quite a bit of time getting the perfect angle, but once that is achieved, friends and family won't have a problem being able to chime in and watch what you're doing. I'll let you decide if that's a good or bad thing though. Now, for the bezels, those damn bezels are massive. At just over 2 centimeters and close to an inch on each side, your 15.6 inch display is covered in some fat but not too ugly bezels that extend the size of the case to be almost 18 inch. So make sure when you are case shopping for this model, you take that into account. The model is larger than normal, but it does help with the flex of the screen. You can flex the screen a little bit, but it does feel quite sturdy. Before we move away from the laptop and talk performance, again, I want to touch on the speakers. Again, they're not that great, but really, this is a trend that's forming of not so great stuff in the laptop. The stuff that it's lacking is the stuff that a gamer should be using third-party accessories for, to help with. You should not be using a trackpad to game. The inbuilt speakers shouldn't be used and should be covered by a headset. That being said, I would like the volume to at least be able to reach a little higher. You will struggle to hear music in the shower if you decide to bring it into the bathroom for some karaoke, so don't even try with this. Actually, your phone might even be louder. The weight of this laptop is going to come in at 2.3 kilos or 5 pounds. Well, for a notebook packing a GPU, hard drive, and a 5.6-inch display is a great selling point to actually be so light compared to some other brands out there. The charger is also slim and weighs about 500 grams. So let's dive into the battery life. The battery is a 6-cell battery, standard really for most notebooks this size. Something that is becoming more of a trend recently, and to my despise, is the manufacturers are making the batteries built in. That means no swapping the battery out on the go, a downside I would have found if I was still in school, where I couldn't charge during a class. A second battery was a lifesaver near the end of the day. Granted that for general use, this beauty here has a pretty good runtime. Running Battery Eater to test the battery life of the notebook has yielded the following results for myself. Please note they may alter for you, as well as the battery stops charging at about 95% until you turn it back on, so there was a little bit of variance here. When putting it through the reader's eating setting, so where it's just reading a note, like reading and scrolling through notebook, like the notebook that it had, it lasted just over 5.5 hours. So if you're planning on doing some reading and basic typing, this laptop really will last a decent amount of time. So for class, it would have been fine. Well, minus the weight, but it isn't as bad as a 2008 laptop I had to lug around when I was in school. However, the moment we changed the test to the higher settings, or just the normal ones, my results did greatly diminish. Running at a max settings, it lasted only 66 minutes. Again though, times like that should only be achieved if we were to say rendering a video or playing a game in full screen. Any of these tasks we normally would do while we did have a power source to keep it charged. My conclusion to the battery performance is I quite like it, to be honest. It lasts long enough that if I need to leave it while rendering a video while I leave work to come home, or the other way around, I'll be able to continue doing it knowing I'll be able to plug it into an AC port in time without it losing all my data. As for benchmarks, unfortunately I can't be great help here. I don't play any of the new AAA games to test, and I'm sure you don't want me to bench Minecraft or RuneScape. Instead, I've put a benchmark program up, as you can see here. It's called Untitled Valley. It's a benchmarking program that heavily stresses and tests the GPU of your system. It's free, and I recommend it to see how your current PC performs. We need to worry less on the CPU stress testing aside for the video games, so this one focuses just on GPU. Now, for my main desktop running the NVIDIA GTX 970, it scored a 2350, averaging 59.7 seconds, running the benchmark on Ultra HD. So as you can see on the screen, I've got Untitled Valley running in the background. The test lasted around 10 minutes and gave me a score of 881 with an average FPS of 21.1 while running on Ultra HD. Another thing to note is the temperature sat at a stable 59 degrees, so the temperature part of this laptop is pretty good. Gets a bit warm around the trackpad and the keyboard, but on the sides where your palms are resting, it's not too much of an issue. If you're gaming with the mouse, you won't notice the heat. However, when we did lower the benchmark to the basic version, we received 65.7 FPS. So with those results, you should be able to expect to play most AAA games on medium settings without too much of an issue. Just remember you won't be playing long if you can't plug it into an AC port. I hope you've enjoyed this review and found it helpful in any way. If you have, please make sure to subscribe for more content and leave a like rating. If you have any questions that you'd like answered about this, leave it in the comments. If I can help, I'll answer you. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.